guest on this video is none other than world record holder, world champion at the marathon. Needs no introduction really to readers and viewers of Athletics Weekly, Paula Radcliffe. Now, a marathoning legend, but 10 years since your last marathon, and as people will be more than aware now, you recently ran the Tokyo Marathon, but you decided that you were going to come back and complete the World Marathon Majors 6-star challenge. First of all, I wanted to ask you why, after such a break, did you want to come back to the marathon again and kind of put yourself through that the pain and the training and all the effort of what is the marathon, you know?
I think it was really purely born out of the fact that still 10 years and a bit into retirement, one of my favorite places to be is around that finish area of the marathon, and kind of seeing the look on people's faces when they turn that final corner and they realize that they've done it, and they witnessing the camaraderie and the magic that is part of a big city marathon day. And I think that's what brings people together, and that's what's really unique and special about the marathon. So coming back to it was really born out of, oh, I love doing that. And I was asked to go to the Berlin Marathon in 2023 by Nike and to pace a group of runners around that. And so I just thought, I absolutely love this. I've missed that part of it, being in the midst of the mass runners and just everybody encouraging each other, and the wealth of people and emotions that you kind of see out there, and the warmth of it, and everybody's so genuine and so helping each other through it in their own little journey. And so it was really born out of that. So then I started thinking, okay, well, if I can do that, and I went to about 38k there, purely because I had to get a flight to get back to look after the children. So I thought, well, if I can do that, and my foot was sore afterwards, but it wasn't that bad during the race. And then in the summers, when I go down to Font-Romeu, I've kind of been heading out on the trails just to explore my trails, because that's the part of Font-Romeu that I love. And I'd be out for sometimes 2.5 hours there. So I thought, oh, my foot's great on that. So I started to think, I wonder if it's possible for me to come back and complete the 6, which is something that maybe I had wanted to do prior. Like before, I had all these ideas. When I've retired, I'll complete the 6, I'll do comrades. And then I kind of had to reassess that, because predominantly I wanted to be able to run every day and enjoy that and be pain-free on my foot. And I didn't think I could mix the two. But I think Berlin kind of tempted me that I could mix it. And so then I looked at the calendar, and Isla at the same time had her idea of trying to run London for her own reasons. And that's for her to I think prove to herself that her body is healthy enough now to run a marathon, and also to raise money for Children with Cancer UK, and to kind of, just make a difference and raise awareness there. So she has her own reasons. But then I started looking at the calendar and thought, actually, for once it works in terms of Tokyo doesn't exactly clash with indoor championships where I'd be working, and Boston wasn't the Monday after London where I'd be working. So I thought, right, okay, it's this year, now or never. And so I committed to the challenge, and actually the training was going well, and my foot was kind of tolerating it, but all of my runs have been on trail. And then I get into Tokyo, and it was really sore. So the second half wasn't a whole lot of fun, and it still was in the beginning, but not as much as I'd kind of imagined. And so then I kind of survived through that. At the end of the race, I think I've spoken about the fact that it did scare me, and I thought, what have I done? I hope I haven't jeopardized it. But the more it's gone on afterwards, I actually think my mistake in terms of wearing my orthotics when I shouldn't have done actually saved the vulnerable part of my foot, because it meant that all the load was going onto the lateral side of my foot, whereas it's the arch that's been rebuilt for me. So as I've calmed that down, and touch wood, not really irritated that part too much, I'm actually finding that the joint is no worse than it has been after any of the long runs. And so that's kind of making me think, okay, now I've just got to be super careful in Boston. So it is kind of weighing that up. I've got to temper my own, I've done this in training, so I should be able to do this in the race, because it's a different story for me when my foot's on tarmac.
So what would, say, like in the last 12 months, 2 years, what typically have you been doing running? What kind of volume would you do? I think when you mention your name, people would imagine you're still running twice a day, still doing 100 miles a week, you know, in the hills, track
Not
sessions.
at all. I mean, you've got to think. So when I first had the surgery, I couldn't run a step for 9 months.
Right.
And then I only got back to running to begin with, like twice a week, and it would be 5 minutes running, 5 minutes of walking, kind of alternating that, a lot of pole walking and stuff like that. Then I got back to being able to run on grass. Then I got back to being able to run the marathon in 2015 for the final time, and that was really important for me. And really since then, since I retired then, I have really relished kind of throwing away all kind of measurements. So I run with a watch, but I run with my Apple Watch so that the kids can call me if they need me.
Right.
And that's it. I don't try time it. I don't track distance. And I get out and do what I can. So it might be a social run with friends that's only 35 minutes, or it might have been that time when I go down to Font and I'll just go off and run on the trails for 2.5 hours. But on average, it's probably between 45 minutes and an hour a day. Okay. And instead of that being the focus of my day as it was, it's now squashed whenever I can in amongst the rest of the things in my day. And I probably can do, well, before I was probably doing maybe 6 days a week running and a day of cross training. Mm-hmm. And I'd take my rest day as and when I was traveling with work and things like that. Now I've actually got probably fewer running days in the week, because if I'm running longer one day, I've got to offload the foot the next day. So
you'd mentioned about I'll have to cut that. I totally lost my train of thought. What I was going to say, but what was I going to say? Bloody hell! I forgot what I was going to say. Okay. So, when you decided you were going to do the majors and you're going to do Tokyo first up, did you plan your training as you would do in the past? Did you write a plan out? Did you think, I'm going to incrementally increase the long runs, the overall volume? How did you approach it from a, let's say, casual approach to your daily training to being more focused towards 2 marathons in a couple of months' time?
I'd say pretty gradually. So I think the first thing that I tried to do in the run up to Christmas was just get my long run a little bit up. So I kind of went up gradually for an hour and a half, an hour 40, an hour 50, 2 hours, and just kind of built that up gradually. I reintroduced hill reps as well, kind of in December. Before I just kind of think, oh, I'm running, there's a hill, I'll just run a bit harder up this hill. So it was kind of built into my runs, whereas now I've made it more structured. And that was it, really, kind of pace-wise, because I didn't really want to overstress the joint and things like that. I was doing a coaching clinic with New Levels Coaching in the new year, and so I did a track session in Loughborough with the group, and that was good because I thought, actually, I've missed this, and it did me good, and I was working hard by the end of it, but it did irritate my foot a little bit. So I kind of thought, right, okay, that's it. That's good for a one-off.
What you're demonstrating here is the competitive nature hasn't gone away at all, and you're relishing out doing the sessions, doing the track sessions.
More than the competitive nature, it's that camaraderie, and that's what I grew up with. So at Bedford, that's what we had. It was a group of friends that were all part of a training group, and we were pushing each other, and that's what kept me in the sport then. The fact that it was with my friends, we'd be all on the bus to the competitions, we'd be enjoying it, and that's what I think is the best thing about the marathon racing. So that's kind of what's drawn me back into it. And yes, a lot of my runs now are completely on my own, and that's the other thing. I've had to adjust fueling and things, because before I would have Gary alongside me on the bike giving me my drinks all the way through. Now it's just me off in the trails, and sometimes I might see a group of walkers, but that's it. And I'm not running loops and loops where I can hide a drink. So I'm essentially just leaving really well hydrated with a couple of gels in my back pocket, and taking those on the run and kind of getting through it that way. And that was okay. But in Tokyo, I was really, it was warm, and I was really bad at drinking out of the cups, really bad. So I think at the end, I mean, I look back and I didn't run with my proper Frontier X monitor, which I probably should have done in the race, but I thought, I'm just going to run and enjoy it. I look back at my my watch and what it had done for my heart rate afterwards, and from 38k to the finish, I was at 205.
You know, exactly the same. And I think it was the heat amping up, and the fact that when we started, it was overcast, and it was only around 10 degrees. And I stood at the start line, and I had sunglasses on. I think, well, I don't need these. Put them in my pocket, and was coasting along nicely. But at 19, 20 miles, when it had been hot since about 15, it had ramped up, and it was like 20 degrees plus, wasn't it? I looked at my heart rate, and it was sky high, and I felt like my chest was just pounding. And I was telling myself, get to 20, get to 20. And at 20 miles, there was a drink station, and I actually physically stopped to try and have a drink. But yeah, I don't know. I was, you know, in the midst of the race and what have you. I didn't. I had 1/3 of a cup of water, which was all that was there, you know. And I thought, by having a little rest for just 1 minute, it'll be like doing an interval session, and my heart rate will come down, and I'll go again. I set off, and there was nothing left to go again. And then on reflection, you look at the graphs, the temperature, you've been running with no water for 20 miles. It was just, that was enough. And at the end, my lips were almost cracked. It was a tough day for everybody. And a lot of people have commented about the water situation. But
yeah,
I mean, it's surprising. It's surprising for a major, because, you know, they kind of can look at the water forecast, but just having a little bit of water in a cup, it's not an ideal.
Apparently, people further back, they'd run out of cups, so they're having to put it in their hands, get it poured into their hands to be able to drink it. Which, I mean, on a day like that, it's tough. So it really was a little bit of survival thing at the end.
Whilst you were running in Tokyo, how many people recognised you around you? Did you get a lot of
in the race? People were being really nice, and they were like, okay. So one of the paces early on, and I was trying to run with the 250 paces in front of me, but one of them came past, and I was chatting to him, and he was really, really nice. And then there was a group of runners around me, and then I think they tried to encourage me then when they were moving on, but I can't now. I've got to just pull it back to be able to finish. And at one point I did think I was going to have to walk it in, but thank God I didn't, because when I stopped and I sat down at the end, I couldn't walk on my foot at all. So I think it was good that I kept it moving.
And you know, when having had a break, say, from competitive racing, how did you find coming back to standing on a big international start line like that? Because I think you know, I think I always say to people, having been running for 40 odd years, well, 50 years really, that when I got to about 40 years old, I was lining up in races and kind of remembering how to race, but the legs weren't quite capable of keeping up with that thought, you know.
Well, I knew it was going to be tricky, because I thought they were joking a couple of days before the race when they said to me, you need to be introduced at the start and you need to go on the front line. I'm like, why? And they said, well, because you've got the fastest time in the women's field. I was like, that was 22 years ago. It's not really valid now. And they did the same to Tegla LaRoupe, who was just jogging around. Okay. And so they said to us, you both got to be introduced and like go in when the elites come jogging out. So I did that, and then I just kind of went and buried myself at the back. And I don't know how Tegla managed it, but she managed to get into the Coral A and make her way even further back. But I was right at the back, and I just said to the guys in the front of Coral A, I was like, I'm really sorry, you're just gonna have to go around me, because my biggest thing is I don't want to get caught into that competitive instinct of thinking it's 20 years ago and I can run at that pace. I need to be able to go off steady. But as you found out, the start of Tokyo is different, I think, to other marathons in terms of they really leg it for the first couple of K.
Yeah, well, I think Japanese athletes just start so aggressively. It's a kind of kamikaze kind of attitude. And if you look at some of the stats, they had so many Japanese men on like 2:05 pace at halfway, you know, 40 or 50 people, you know, so they just go for it, you know. And I think it was a trial for the world champs for them, so it was the last opportunity for a lot of people just to give it a shot, you know. So we're now, 6 5 and a bit weeks away from Boston. It's a bit scary because I'm running Boston as well. When you look at the calendar,
I know.
Crikey, I'm still trying to recover this week before I have a build-up week and then do 2 decent weeks. How are you getting on? How are you approaching it?
It was kind of inflicted on me, I guess, by my foot to begin with. So first thing I did was just get home, do a bit of cross training, get a couple of physio sessions on my foot, which I hadn't done at all, apart from the one session with Jared in the build up to Tokyo, and that settled it down. So then I was flew straight out to Appledon for the European indoors, and luckily our hotel was right on the river in Deventer, so I was able to just jog on the grass. And so Thursday was just a mental day. I mean, I think I was up at 4:30 and commentating till about 9 o'clock at night, and then just absolutely crashed that day. So then Friday I just got out and I think I did about 40 minutes, just easy on the grass, and it was okay with that. And just been doing a whole lot of balancing exercise, just trying to get my foot firing in the proprioception because it was totally shot. And so then I got up to 50 the next day, and I did an hour on Sunday just around work and things, and that was okay. And then traveled back, did cross training session again. So I've kind of alternating those, and I've not tried to do anything too much at pace. But then because of the so I have cardiologist checkups regularly since my dad died, and I had one scheduled in when I saw what my heart rate had done at the end of Tokyo. I kind of booked that one in. So because of that, day before yesterday, I ended up doing just like an easy run in the morning, and then basically going and doing kind of a treadmill workout, but it was a lighter one. And I thought, oh, actually that's all right. When he put the pace up to kind of get my heart rate up, it was all right. And so I stretched out a little bit on that, and aside from a few strides, that's all I've kind of done. But I did get back to 2 hours, but easier than the 2 hours had been before the thing. And yeah, my foot was fine on that. It was just on trails, and I just put a lot of hills in.
What, I mean, have you ever commentated on Boston before? You'd be aware of the course.
I've watched it. Yeah, I've watched it a lot.
Yeah. So what do you, I mean, it's the general, what most people understand about Boston is 10 miles gradual downhill, and then around 20, of course, you've got the famous Heartbreak Hill, and it's got, it's around about 900 feet of climbing, but that typically, I think it all occurs around 16 to 21 miles. So any trepidation around the course? It'll be probably very different to most things that you've ran before.
Yeah, I think that bit, I think, to be honest, the biggest trepidation for me is the downhill at the beginning, given what happened in Tokyo. And because downhill is actually putting a lot more stress on your joints than running uphill. So yeah, in uphill, that's a training thing to get ready for that. The only thing is that when my foot stops flexing properly, it becomes much harder to run uphill because you're kind of not getting the push up that you need off one leg. So that bit worries me. That's why I'm kind of balancing. I have to have the right support in my shoes, that the joint is protected as much downhill to enable me to be able to keep the fitness running and show the fitness running uphill at the end. The actual fitness for running up the hills, I'm not so much worried about, because all of my running out here has to be on pretty severe hills, and it does start slightly differently in that I have to run uphill for about 3k, but then I've got a long gradual downhill built into my long run, and then I turn around and come back up it, and I kind of run around that. So the ups and downs on trails are good. The big thing in my mind is what is going to happen when that's on the road, and again, that's where the advantage of the shoes come in. I've just not got to negate it by putting my insoles in at this time.
Yeah. And so away from running and marathoning, you've got a new podcast, or a relatively new podcast, that you started with your co-host Chris Thompson, Paula's Marathon Run Club. It's been very popular, very well received. Will that be continuing, and what will be your plans once you've got a 6-star medal? Any further? Will you go back to
any further things? Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, I think, well, I'll answer the 6-star one first. I think once I've got the 6-star, that probably is it for marathons on the road. I kind of don't want to push my luck, and like I said, I was scared at the end of Tokyo that I'd kind of jeopardized long-term foot health a little bit. So I think in terms of that distance on the road, that's probably a line drawn under it. However, I have promised Crammy for a number of years that I will go and do Kielder marathon, which is a trail marathon. And so that one, I think that's still one on my bucket list for sometime in the autumn, and that kind of thing. Because, like I say, I've really loved being back a part fully of that community, and through the Run Club, we're getting that as well. We've had some amazing interaction, even in Tokyo. People are coming up to me, telling me that they're listening from all over the world. And the questions that we're getting are really interesting. The guests we're learning stuff from all the time. We've had some phenomenal guests on, and really, really grateful for that. So yeah, I think Chris and I would love to do it going forward, to maybe do some live ones, some build-ups to other events, and to perhaps expand it so that we have like a general run club that will cover shorter distances, as well as actually getting ready for the marathon, and maybe even have some actual in-person ones where we kind of meet up, and I don't know if it's possible. We've kind of got all these dreams in the pipeline. We'd like to get groups together and kind of perhaps record while we're running.
Cool. Well, it all sounds very exciting. I listen to the podcast every week. It's something I do look forward to downloading, and I listen to it on my easy run. So I hope it does continue, and I'm sure all the listeners at the moment do as well. It's been great talking to you, Paula. Thanks again for joining us. Hopefully, Paula Radcliffe, world record holder, world champion, and soon 6-star world major marathon finisher.
Have you registered, by the way?
The what, sorry?
Have you registered for your 6-star?
Yes, I have, yes.
Yeah, because it's quite funny when you do it, isn't it? Then suddenly you get I got these emails this morning. It said, well done, you ran the Chicago Marathon in 2 hours, 17:18.
So can I just ask you then, for people who are watching this who have done the 6-star process, you do register, like you say, on the
yeah, I didn't know till yesterday.
And after Tokyo, I got a little thing pops up, and it says, well done, Paul, you've gained another medal, you're one step away, and your average time is 2:44. Now mine is a span nearly of yours is
I didn't get my average time.
3-year span. So what does it give you, your average time? It's going to be,
I don't know if it has done that.
Reasonably good.
It says
it's a number of majors and your current average.
I haven't seen that one come in.
Well, you'll have to have a look.
It did make me laugh because all the times came popping up. So it says your best time from London was 2 hours 15.
You're going to see it, and you're going to think, oh, 2:29 average time. I've got to get closer to that now.
So is it in the Tokyo one?
It'll be just on the world majors page.
Oh, so you have to go to the actual page.
Yeah.
Runner portal login. Here we go.
Yeah, there you go. You know you're going to just want to hit that average though when you see it.
Oh, my average has been destroyed, isn't it? My average before was quite good.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't say the. Maybe mine's too big of a span.
No, mine's 25 years. It wasn't. 6-stars weren't invented when I started.
No, well, no, me.
What year did they come in? No,
say the average time. It just says confirmed place for your 6th one.
Yeah. I'll cut all this bit out, by the way.
Oh, hang on. It does say that I'm ranked, age group ranked 14th.
There you go. So you'll get an invitation to New York to do the world thing, which is, I think, it's essentially you just get a place, but it costs you $1,500.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it doesn't tell ranked. It tells me the top rankings. No, I'll have to have a play with that. I'll text you if I find it.
Okay.
I probably could just work it out by adding them all together and dividing by 5, couldn't I?
You can, yeah. So then you start, oh, should I just do the minutes? And then it gets a bit tricky with the seconds. Well, Paula, thank you very much for joining us once again. Good luck in Boston, and hopefully the next time we speak, you'll have a 6-star medal to show us as well. Thanks again.
Hopefully. Yeah, I'll see you at that finish.
Thanks, Paula. Thank you.
Thank you.